notice provided to the Courier News and the Breeze, posting on the website and the bulletin board in the municipal building, and filing with the township clerk. Ms. Doyle, roll call, please.
Councilman Kirsch?
Here.
Councilman Cardillo?
Here.
Councilman Nargales?
Here.
Councilman Ring?
Good evening here.
President Pedroso?
Here. Thank you very much. If you're able to stand and join us wherever you may be for the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd appreciate that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Thank you very much. All right, minutes for approval. We have March 18th, 2021. Are there any comments, any proposed changes, or is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Thank you, Councilman Ring. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Great. I guess we can all in favor for this. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. Township Council reports. First one on my list here is Councilman Nargales.
Thanks, sir. To our Jewish friends, I hope that your Passover celebration could still be held despite the continuing COVID restrictions. Passover is also called, and Michael, you may have to help me on the pronunciation on this, it's also called Pesach. It is a major Jewish holiday that occurs in the spring on the 15th day of the Hebrew month of Nisan. To our Christian friends, I'm thankful for Palm Sunday, Good Friday, and Easter Sunday just passed, as they represent the foundation of the Christian faith, with many different churches united in faith. I attended the virtual RideWise meeting to hear about their plans for electric vehicles and especially charging stations. County Engineer Matt Loper was one of the speakers and spoke about the county participation in doing the electric wiring and for the charging stations at the library and for the town hall. I didn't know they did it. I thought we did it ourselves. I attended the Somerset County quarterly planning meeting to hear about their plans for the coming years. Item included wastewater plans, road safety, and United Way initiatives. I note that the bids have come in on the Old Farm Road project, and it's on tonight's agenda for both sanitary sewer work and complete overlay. As one of only two streets accessing 287 in the north part of the town, this street condition has been dissatisfier to travelers for several years. Great job, that'll get done. Best wishes to the high school students of Asian descent who are rallying in support of the United Front opposed to anti-Asian treatment. As the grandfather of a 14-year-old girl of Chinese descent, I am concerned for her future. That's my report, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Next one I see here is Councilman Ring.
Good evening. Thank you. This past weekend, I attended a rally in support of the Asian American community in Bridgewater and throughout the country that was held at the municipal complex. Also been in receipt of some correspondence related to an item on the agenda tonight for the Redwood, for the repaving projects, in particular Redwood Road, as well as several emails both in support and against the ordinances on the ballot for later this evening. So I'll hold my comments on those until then, but that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Kirsch.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just three brief items. I believe it was last Wednesday, March 31st, we held a virtual code night, an opportunity for residents to call in and speak with key members of our planning department. That was a follow-up on our amnesty program that we ran back in February. As everyone on the council hopefully recalls, there was a brief period where residents could essentially retroactively apply for and receive permits and inspections without the fear of any penalties. That was a successful program, and I think that this education process that we went through on March 31st, Wells may know the exact number, but at the time I was on the call, there were about 12 to 15 residents, and there was certainly a lively discussion about our approach to code enforcement and really being as helpful as we can be to residents so that they get their projects done the right way. The last 2 weekends, I attended rallies back on, I hope I get the date right, March 27th. I was in downtown Basking Ridge for a rally, an anti-hate rally, particularly focused on concerns with hate against the Asian American community. I did not speak, but I was at that rally, happy to support the cause of standing up to hate in not only our community, but neighboring ones as well. And Councilman Cardilla was also at that event. And then this past Saturday, April 3rd, I was at and also spoke at the Bridgewater rally that was organized by several local high school students. I have a statement that I had read on Saturday, which I will provide to Linda and ask that be included in the record as if it was read. But essentially, my comments were in two phases. One was that I certainly stand up to any and all instances of hatred, oppression, or any other instances where members of our community are threatened, either physically or verbally. And the second is that I expressed support for the specific initiatives that our Mayor Mensch, has put into place, specifically geared toward the Asian community within Bridgewater. I presume that Mayor Mensch will comment in greater detail during his time on the agenda, and that is my report today.
Thank you, sir. I don't see Council Vice President Cardilla on my screen, but is he here?
I'm here.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Go ahead. Your turn.
Okay, what I would like to comment on this evening is that, as Michael just mentioned, I had also attended the anti-hate crime for Asians in Basking Ridge on March 27th. And also I attended this past Saturday's event in Bridgewater Township. I was very pleased to see that the comments that were made at the rally this past week, it seemed like all governing officials were speaking from the same page, that there's an intolerance for hate for the Asian community, not only for the Asian community, but for all communities in general, but certainly with a focus on the Asian community at this time. The other thing I'd like to comment on this evening is we've had a very unfortunate run of events in Bridgewater for the past few months, in that we've been losing some very important people in our communities, starting with Howard Bixler and Bob Vaucher. I'd like to recognize the loss of Bob Forsythe for the Martinsville community this evening. Bob was over 50-year member of the Martinsville Fire Department, and he, during his term in Martinsville, he had provided service to the fire service community through the State Firemen's Relief Association for over 40 years. When I think of people like Bob Forsythe, Bob Vaucher, and Howard Bixler, I think there's a tremendous void being created in our community for individuals who are willing to take the time to donate their services to Bridgewater Township. And that's the reason I am putting into the minutes my comments regarding Bob Forsythe. That's all that I have, Philippe. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I have very few things. I just want to reiterate, I guess, Howard's comments about hope everyone had a very, very happy and joyful, healthy Passover and Easter, two very important holidays in the Jewish and Christian faiths. I did attend the Somerset Regional Animal Shelter meeting, and I also had the privilege of speaking at the rally that occurred this weekend. Just what a wonderful job that these high schoolers put together, especially Rachel and Julie. They really put together a wonderful event that brought the community together. And it was so nice to see just so many people out there just in support of the Asian American community here in Bridgewater, Asian American community period, all across America. Certainly Bridgewater is lucky to have Emily and Rachel put together this event for us. Anyway, I had the chance to speak at the rally. Basically, I said what I think we all truly believe in our hearts, and that is that Bridgewater is a diverse community. We are rich in cultures and ethnicities and backgrounds here in town, and here in Bridgewater, we don't tolerate hate. And I want to just make sure that's clear. I stated that at the rally. I'm stating it here, Bridgewater. I believe strongly our residents in this town share my views that we do not tolerate hate towards Asian Americans, towards anyone in Bridgewater Township. I also want to thank the brave men and women of our police department who fulfill, who keep us safe and who also instill those values. And I'm confident will do their best to keep the Asian American community safe here in Bridgewater and everyone else, everyone in this town. And I thank them for their service to the township in fulfilling that obligation and with the professionalism. So anyway, it was really wonderful event. I really feel like it was very well attended by people from both parties. It was a bipartisan event, and I'm just glad to see everyone come together to really support our Asian American neighbors here in town and supporting the cause of not tolerating hate towards anyone. So anyway, those are my comments. I'm pretty sure the mayor is going to add in on all this, so I'll pass the microphone to the mayor.
Thank you, Council President. The only item I have to report this evening as part of my report is that I did attend, along with all the council members who were referenced, the Stop Asian Hate rally this weekend. I was honored to represent public and speak on behalf of our township at that rally and condemning all forms of hate, including those against Asian Americans, which seek to create a culture of fear and keep those folks to be in a constant state of inability to enjoy their home, to feel secure in their environment. And it's really a form of terrorism to have folks take actions targeting any individual based on their race or ethnicity. So we've been working with our police department since last January. This is pre-pandemic, or creating the recent events, to make sure that we've had constant outreach with leaders of the Asian community in Bridgewater to direct police resources to the communities the most impacted by our Asian American residents here in Bridgewater, and to continue a dialogue with all members of our community through our police department and our bi-monthly meeting of religious leaders, and we'll continue to do that over the next year. So it was an amazing event put together by two talented students, and it really is. I joked at the rally, but one day we're going to see people like that, like Emily and Rachel and those students who put this together. They'll be the ones representing Bridgewater, standing in front of the microphone as mayor of our town. So it was really a humbling and inspiring event. Happy to participate, and I look forward to continuing to work with our Asian American leaders here in Bridgewater on any number of topics, including security. With that, Council President, I do have comments on items that are on the agendas, but I won't make those comments now.
Very well. Thank you, Mayor. There is a proclamation this evening for Child Abuse Prevention Month, and I believe the mayor will present the proclamation.
Thank you, Council President. I will read the proclamation. Whereas we all have a responsibility as individuals, neighbors, community members, and citizens of Bridgewater Township to help create healthy, nurturing, and safe experiences for all children. And whereas healthy and safe childhoods help produce confident and successful adults. And whereas child abuse and neglect often occur when people find themselves in stressful situations without community resources and don't know how to cope. And whereas incidences of child abuse and neglect can be reduced by making sure all families have the support they need and deserve to raise their children in healthy environments. And whereas the court-appointed special advocates are authorized by state statute and federal law to help the court and child welfare systems make best interest decisions on behalf of children removed from homes because of abuse or neglect. And whereas CASA volunteer advocates in Bridgewater Township help to ensure that abused and neglected children who are placed in foster care and other out-of-home placements are safe and receive the services they need to achieve well-being. And whereas CASA advocates reduce the number of moves between placements, help shorten the overall time a child remains in placement, and serve as a consistent person in the child's life until that child achieves permanency in a safe home with a loving family. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Matthew C. Mensch, Mayor of the Township of Bridgewater, do hereby proclaim April 2021 as Child Abuse Prevention Month and extend to all residents to encourage all residents to engage in activities that strengthen families and communities to provide optimal environment for children to learn, grow, and thrive so that all children have the benefit of happy, healthy, and safe childhoods. And I'd like to thank the women's organization, Women's Club, who has helped to promote this resolution and all their work on behalf of children here in Bridgewater and in support of this organization and this proclamation.
That's wonderful, Mayor. Thank you very much for the proclamation. Thank you for sharing that with us here this evening. Item number 8 is where we open the meeting to the public. We do have some ordinances that are being introduced tonight. We also have ordinances that are being considered for adoption this evening. Members of the public should be aware that if you wish to comment on those ordinances, you should do so at this time when we open the meeting to the public. At this time, you can also comment on any other matter that you may wish. Everyone that does address this governing body does need to provide their name and their address. All right, so Wells, are you on? Can you hear me?
Council President, I'm sorry, this is Matt. Just real quick, I just wanted to confirm something you just said. When we do the final action on the ordinances, there is are we doing open public meeting all at one time? Is that what you just said now? So they shouldn't wait to the ordinance time period, is that correct?
That is correct. That is the way we've been handling the meetings ever since we've gone virtual due to COVID.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure that was clear because I think there's probably a fair number of residents who want to speak on the ordinances. So I apologize. Thank you for clarifying for me.
Sure, and I appreciate you clarifying it some more. So I know that sometimes we take a couple-minute break, but I presume Wells has a few comments to read like we did at the last meeting. So maybe we can just proceed, and if anybody in the public wishes to add comments, they can submit them, and then Wells can take maybe a few seconds to see if anything else came in. Does that make sense? Wells, are you there?
Sure. I think probably I'll read the written comment we've received and give people time to either raise their hand or submit via the Q&A. Just make sure you just include your full name and address if you're submitting that way, so I can read that into the record.
All right.
Oh,
So
excuse me, Michael,
we'll have to do.
Yeah, we need a motion to go to open public.
All right, very good. That's what I was going to do. So, okay, so who made the motion? Howard?
I'll make that
Yes.
motion, Philippe.
Okay, so I guess Alan made the motion, Howard seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Any opposed? All right, hearing none, I'm going to read the notice. Members of the public wishing to address the council on any matter will be allowed to provide public input via electronic transmission, with all comments to be read into the record unless there are unusual circumstances. As has been tradition, this governing body typically entertains comments that last approximately 2 minutes unless there are unusual circumstances. This evening, we do have a written comment by the Democrat Municipal Committee in Bridgewater Township, and they did seek permission to exceed the 2 minutes in their written comment, And because they are obviously a political body that represents people here in Bridgewater Township, I did allow that comment to exceed the 2 minutes, and Mr. Winiger will read that statement as he goes through all the other comments. So just so everyone has a heads up. So, okay, I'll pass the mic on to Mr. Winiger. You can start reading the comments.
Sure,
Sir,
I'll
please.
start with that one, Council President. It's on top of my
Very
file. So Howard Teichman, 60 Fairmount Avenue, statement of the Bridgewater Township Municipal Democratic Committee in opposition to proposed ordinances 10A and 10B, prohibiting the location of legal marijuana-related business in Bridgewater Township. On November 3rd, 2020, the voters of New Jersey approved the legislation of marijuana under the appropriate regulations by a vote of 67 to 33%. The voters of Bridgewater supported the action by a similar vote of 61% to 39%, and yet, with vague references to quote-unquote quality of life and quote-unquote potential negative impacts, our elected officials have introduced ordinances that would declare our township off limits to marijuana dispensaries and businesses devoted to the cultivation, manufacturing, packaging, distribution, and delivery of this legal product. The Bridgewater Township Municipal Democratic Committee believes that these proposed ordinances identified on the April 5th, 2021 Township Council agenda as ordinances 10A and 10B are unnecessary, are not desired by the people of Bridgewater, and would create an economic and financial detriment to our community. We therefore call on the Bridgewater Township Council to reject these two ordinances. The committee wishes to make clear that it is not taking position on the two other proposed ordinances identified as 10C and 10B that would prohibit the use of marijuana on public property or public events. The committee accepts the concept that marijuana should be treated the same as alcohol and tobacco from the standpoint of public use. While some of our members may question whether ordinances 10C and 10D actually treat these substances equally, our focus is on the council's extraordinary and completely unjustified move to ban businesses that deal in a legal product. The ordinances that would do so are identified as 10A and 10B, and we strongly oppose their adoption. These ordinances infringe on the freedom of Bridgewater residents to engage in and patronize a lawful business with no benefit to the community. At the March 18th meeting where these ordinances were introduced, council members could offer only vague and insubstantial reasons for banning these businesses. In fact, most of the discussion focused on the reasons to ban public use with no solid reasons given for preventing retail dispensaries, warehousing businesses, processing facilities, or the like. In Bridgewater, we have a thriving business environment, including extensive retail space, as well as industrial facilities. We can anticipate that in addition to dispensaries themselves, businesses involving the packaging and warehousing and distribution of this legal product would choose to locate here. We are confident that the result of state regulations and local zoning control Bridgewater become the home of a limited number of these businesses located in appropriate places in our township. No good reasons have been offered for prohibiting these facilities from joining the active business environment here in Bridgewater. On the other hand, the economic benefits of permitting these legal businesses to operate in Bridgewater are clear. At the March 18th meeting, our elected officials suggested that revenues to the township will be capped at 2% of the revenues of marijuana sales at Bridgewater. At best, this is highly misleading. 2% refers to a sales tax the municipality would be able to impose on the sales of marijuana products similar to the hotel room tax that is currently paid by places of lodging in the township. However, any marijuana business, like any business, would also be a property tax rateable. The township is always seeking tax ratables, which all other things being equal, leave the property tax burden that is carried by homeowners. Additionally, it is possible that the township could receive revenue from the sale of licenses for retail marijuana establishments, just as we do now for places that sell alcoholic beverages. The most recent sale of a liquor license on December 29, 2020 resulted in the payment of the township of more than $650,000. As for the 2% sales tax itself, the city of Patterson recently received its first check for a medical marijuana facility there, which is also subject to a 2% tax. Officials there had anticipated receiving approximately $10,000 per month in sales tax revenue. Instead, based on the volume of sales, the actual payment received amounted to $25,000 per month. While the circumstances in each community are different, it is clear that the revenues from marijuana businesses would far exceed any costs involved in the policing or regulating them. These funds could be used for any municipal purpose, but but we believe most residents would like them to go to priorities like road maintenance and seasonal costs such as snow removal. Marijuana businesses would produce revenues that would benefit our township and its residents, but none of these financial benefits we realize if the proposed ordinance 10A and 10B are adopted. Also of concern is a rapid and rushed manner in which this ordinance is being proposed and considered by the council. The state of New Jersey has afforded all municipalities 180 days from the effective date of the state legislation on February 22nd, 2021, to determine whether to prohibit dispensaries and other marijuana-related businesses. That time expires in late August. The 180-day period allows for time for the governing body to conduct hearings, invite extended public comment and input, and to give the issue thoughtful consideration after hearing from the public. These ordinances represent an extraordinary, perhaps unprecedented action in the annals of Bridgewater Township government. The banning of sales of a legal substance in such a situation, more than the bare minimum of public input is required. Yet the bare minimum is apparently all we shall receive. These ordinances were introduced less than 30 days after the state legislation took effect at the March 18th meeting, with final adoption set for 18 days later, April 5th. Those 18 days included 3 weekends as well as Passover, Good Friday, Easter, and the Hindu holiday of Holi. While this schedule technically complies with the time requirements for adoption of an ordinance, it is clearly not in the spirit of allowing the public sufficient time to study these ordinances, consider the issues, and provide thoughtful, meaningful public input. The effort by the mayor and the council to rush through an ill-conceived ordinance without adequate opportunity for public input is one more thing they'll have to answer for. Regardless of when the final vote may take place, these ordinances do not benefit our community and pose unnecessary and costly restrictions on our citizens and our business community and should be rejected. The next comment I have in a moment is from Sandra Rue, 373 Pond Road. The Bridgewater Township Municipal Democratic Committee stated during these public comments that it believes that these proposed ordinances identified as 10A and 10B are unnecessary, are not desired by the people of Bridgewater, and would create economic and financial detriment to our community, and therefore call on the Bridgewater Township Council to reject these 2 ordinances. I concur with the comments made by the Bridgewater Township Municipal Democratic Committee. The ordinances deny businesses the opportunity to grow, process, warehouse, market, and distribute cannabis products within township limits. Doors are slammed shut on entrepreneurs or small business that would like to benefit from this niche industry in New Jersey. The only explanation given by these honorable councilmen is that they want to maintain the quality of life in Bridgewater and make sure that the Bridgewater under age 21 residents do not have legal access to the product and smoking in public. It's difficult for me to believe that passing these 4 ordinances would stop young people from getting access to marijuana if they want to. As my mother said, quote, people are going to do what they're going to do. I urge the Bridgewater Township Council to reject ordinances 10A and 10B and to devote time to studying the impact that cannabis products have on Bridgewater's way of life, taxes, revenue, and expenses. Next comment I have is from Kathy Franco, 766 Weemac Road. I would like to comment on the township stance on the sale and distribution of marijuana in Bridgewater. Please be aware that I was part of the quote-unquote minority in this state and in this township who voted against the legalization of marijuana. But I am also against excess use of alcohol, nicotine products, and vaping products. Why is it that the township council and mayor feels comfortable with these products being sold and distributed in our township and not for other legalized substances, i.e. marijuana, especially when the sale or production/distribution of these could produce revenues for our township? Why is it that the township feel need to take a knee-jerk reaction in April when the legislature has given until August to propose and allow the opportunity for comment to quote-unquote regulations which have not yet been prepared or proposed by but the township fears? Why is it that the township elected officials choose not to represent the majority of their constituents? In parentheses, when more Bridgewater citizens voted for the approval of this referendum than voted for any one elected official in this town. This is not representing your quote-unquote representing your constituents. This is imposing your version of quote-unquote morality on constituents. And lest we not forget that our esteemed president of the council has a gifting website that offers the sale of marijuana-related products. I guess a good thing that his business is not officially located within our township. Thank you for your time and opportunity to share my views. Okay. Next comment I have is, written comment I have is from Sue Chips, 21 Hayward Street. It saddens me greatly to even consider allowing marijuana to be legal in Bridgewater. Why aren't people taking into account that it's been proven to be a gateway drug and that will only increase the number of teens and young adults that we have grievously buried because of drug overdoses? I shake my head in disbelief at the thought that voters think this is acceptable to lead our youth down this road of addiction and often untimely death. Next comment I have is from John Arcolio, 1110 Washington Valley Road. Most Somerset County towns were attending the League of Municipality meetings hours ago to learn about the emerging state regulations re cannabis. What is the need to rush to judgment in Bridgewater? How does a distribution facility in a nondescript warehouse in a properly zoned area near Route 287 become detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare of the township? End quote, as the ordinance reads. Next written I have from Hugh Giordano, 57 Argyle Ave in Blackwood, New Jersey. My name is Hugh Giordano. I am a union representative for the UFCW Local 152, the official labor union of cannabis workers, both medical and adult use under the AFL-CIO. I would ask that the council members and the mayor table ordinance 10A and 10B. These ordinances are a direct harm to the working class within Bridgewater. It takes away from the ability to create good union jobs from the seed to sale. It also hurts the building trades for the build out of the cannabis industry. These unionized cannabis jobs come with good wages, healthcare, dental, vision, and a path to the middle class. To be blunt, these ordinances are both anti-union and anti-patient, taking away access to local jobs and Medicare. Again, the UFCW opposes the ban on cannabis within Bridgewater. I have several hands raised now, so switch over to that. Joe Bender. Oh, where'd it go? Oh, you don't have the ability to talk. Just unmute. You're unmuted. Just give your full name and address, and you can address the council.
Okay, I believe Kevin was going to start, but I'll do.
Oh, I can switch to Kevin if you'd like.
Yes, that'd be better.
Okay, Kevin, you now have the ability to talk. Just unmute yourself and give your full name and address.
Thanks. This is Kevin Lavin from 8 Redwood Road. Thank you for including Redwood Road and Amer Road in the proposed ordinance for funding 2021 road repair. My neighbors and I submitted a presentation. I'm grateful to Councilman Rice for his feedback on the presentation, and for taking his time to visit our road. I appreciate any effort that was made by the council to review our presentation and better understand our concerns. In my view, there are 3 buckets of issues related to our road's state of disrepair. First and foremost, our road is a safety concern. A high level of constant concentration is required to watch where you're walking. The road is badly and unevenly eroded. My next door neighbor quickly abandoned his effort to teach his daughter how to ride her bike. Too bumpy, too dangerous. We worry as the school bus literally staggers down our road and hope the kids are seated. And we've gotten into the habit of routinely warning our friends and family about the condition of the road, at least back when they could come and visit. The second issue is economic. We look like we're in a different town altogether if you drive onto Redwood or Amer from Hillcrest or Stangl. I'm sure the condition of our road would affect curb appeal of any of our houses should we want to put them on the market. And there's no doubt that the road takes its tolls on our cars, bikes, and pets. The third issue is simply fairness. We pay our taxes and we live on an otherwise beautiful street, except for the obstacle course that our essentially gravel road has become. We have been ignored or delayed for years, despite the efforts of Joe Bender and our other neighbors to get this problem resolved. We applaud the effort that the township undertook for the universal road assessment. We are comforted by the inclusion of Redwood and Amer in this proposed ordinance. I strongly encourage the council to vote yes on this ordinance so years of neglect for Redwood and Amer roads can finally be rectified. Thanks very much for your consideration.
Mr. Winiger is the next one, Joe Bender.
Yep, Mr. Bender, you can unmute yourself now if you'd like to address the council. Just give your full name and address. Got to unmute yourself, Mr. Bender.
Okay, yes. There are some others, but I'll just do this as well. Just to reiterate, Joe Bender from 11 Redwood Road. For 3+ years, we've been promised our road would be on the list for reconstruction. Each time the funds were diverted at the last minute to other roads and projects. As you've seen from our videos, and Kevin's alluded to, our street is in bad shape. We have no sidewalks. We do have to walk on the road. Many of us are aging. I count myself in that list. My wife has fallen, kids have fallen. So I just put that out there as a safety measure. I guess I would ask you to ponder, how would you feel to live on a road that looks like ours? Looking forward, though, I think we can try to put this piece aside. So it looks like we're now included in the latest list. We hope it will not end up in broken promises as in the past. I appreciate the support Mr. Wells has given us in coaching us through the process to come before the board here, and for Councilman Ring to attend and actually see our road and the condition that it's in. Thank you very much. Gives us comfort that maybe things might change. The town engineers have been out multiple times over the years and recently have come out to observe more of the drainage issues. I guess the final thing I'd like is, and I think all of us from Redwood Road would be to know what sort of rough timelines will be, do you anticipate to have this completed? And with that, I will conclude.
Okay, next I have Ann Ulrich. Ann, you now have the ability to speak. Just unmute yourself and give your full name and address.
Hello?
Yep, we got you.
Awesome. Ann Ulrich, 299 Foothill Road. I have lived in Bridgewater my whole life. I'm personally not a marijuana user, so this is regarding 10. But I do have a lot of friends who use it. I would much rather be around a person who is high on pot than someone drunk on alcohol. I do not believe that our local laws should continue to treat pot users as degenerates and the scourge of polite society, but instead resemble the laws governing cigarette smoking when it comes to smoking outside in public, and then liquor licenses when it comes to marijuana-based commerce. Since an overwhelming 67% of voters chose to legalize marijuana, I am sure there are others in our town who would agree with me. And on a final note, laws about vaping and edibles would be incredibly hard to enforce. I'm sure our hardworking police have better things to do than to question people about what might be in their e-cigarette or their cookie that someone has already swallowed. Not only could we gain revenue from businesses, but we could also stop using valuable resources to try and enforce such inconsequential and hard to enforce items. Thank you for your time.
Okay, next I have, I think it's Stephen or Steffi Fowler. You now have the ability to speak. Just unmute yourself and give your full name and address.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Stephen Fowler. I live at 12 Kathleen Place in Bridgewater, New Jersey. This comment is a comment not to the items previously spoken about, but something that I thought was necessary as a commendation to Jennifer Osterberg and the Bridgewater Senior Center during this treacherous pandemic. She and the center have really tried through emails that have been continuing for the last 8 to 10 weeks to provide access opportunities for seniors to be able to schedule or learn about how to schedule their vaccinations. And I know I've been in discussion with various medical groups and trying to find those who have been really proactive, particularly with the over 55, over 65 community, to diminish their anxiety about gaining access. And she and the people around her have really done a superb job in outreach to give people opportunities between vaccine angels and various contact points that are not officially recommended but are suggestions so that people unfamiliar with the state of how the community is working on the medical side of institutions of trying to get a little more sanity and calmness in their lives as they get their vaccination. So I thought, it's nice to criticize sometimes, but it's equally nice to commend strong, purposeful activities that I think has been helpful. Thank you very much.
Okay, next I have JT King. You now have the ability to speak. Just give your full name and address, mute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jeffrey King. I live at 24 Elizabeth Parkway in Eatontown. I would like to add my name and my voice to the list of people who are asking you not to ban cannabis businesses. It's a mistake. It's myopic. It's reactionary. It's ill-informed, uneducated. It's factually incorrect. It's against the will of the voters and the people in your community and the entire state. It's hypocritical. It's inconsistent with alcohol and deadly and addictive opiates and cancer-causing nicotine. It's just ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. It's petty. It's small. It's sad. It's pathetic. So, thank you for letting me vent and say my opinion, my 2 cents. For what it's worth, it is appreciated that you do take the public's comment when you take these actions, because it is very, very impact that it has on people, our lives. The stigma, the way that cannabis consumers have been treated for these decades, our whole lives, we've been treated like subhuman animals, put in cages, handcuffs. It's horrible. That's awful, the way we've been treated. And it continues with bans. That's the new Jim Crow now. So thanks a lot. I'm finished.
Okay, next I have Elizabeth Hutchinson. You now have the ability to speak. Just unmute yourself and give your full name and address.
It's Elizabeth Hutchin,
Apologies.
527 Foothill Road. I've lived in Bridgewater since 1949 and am truly dismayed that we have a council that is deaf to the will of the people. And I am especially dismayed that you are forcing a vote tonight, specifically on 10A and ordinance 10A and 10B. That I believe is a serious lack of consideration for the voters of this community. And I wholeheartedly endorse the statement of the Bridgewater Democratic Committee. Thank you.
Next I have Jill Gladstone. She's using an older version, so I have to promote her to a panelist. So I can do that and then demote. Okay. So she's using an older version of Ring Central. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I'm just going to go to the next one. I'm not sure why that's not working. Next one I have is Mike Redler. You now have the ability to speak. Just unmute yourself and give your full name and address.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. There's an earlier speaker who used a lot of adjectives to describe the ban. One of them was hypocritical, and it kind of inspired me to ask a question. If Council President Pedroso decides in favor of the ban, will he also remove the hundreds of cannabis-related products from his online store known as Gift Apart? And I'll leave it there.
I have a couple, I still have some hand raised, but I have some written comments that came in. I'm going to just read through those. Jennifer Fagley, excuse me if I'm mispronouncing, 1600 Vossler Avenue, Bridgewater. Thank you, Mayor Mensch, Council President Pedroso, and council members for facilitating public comments on this topic. I wish to first express my support for the statement previously made by the Bridgewater Democratic Municipal Committee. Furthermore, I would like to expand on the item of most concern, the possible loss of financial benefits for Bridgewater by passing the proposed ordinances 10A and 10B. The council chooses to ban these businesses while we may decide to reverse the course later on. The critical infrastructure for these businesses will likely already be in place in neighboring towns. The Raritan Borough Council has already made statements confirming that they will consider allowing these businesses to operate in their town, benefiting their citizens and ensuring fewer opportunities for such businesses to generate revenue in Bridgewater. In addition to dispensaries, tax rateable packaging, shipping, and warehousing facilities have potential to generate substantial revenue for Bridgewater. Bridgewater is centrally located with access to several major transit arteries. This is surely a reason why companies like UPS chose to operate facilities in Bridgewater. Over 60% of Bridgewater residents voted to legalize marijuana, and potential financial benefits for a town were the primary factor for this decision for many. The voices of the Bridgewater residents weighing on this issue deserve a more thought out response. There's absolutely no reason to rush these ordinances through now when a decision is not needed till August. We cannot allow real world financial gain for Bridgewater to be ignored in favor of symbolic moral posturing. I urge you to listen to the voices of your constituents and do not pass proposed ordinances 10A and 10B. I have a comment from Aaron Trinaki, but I did not have an address. So if that person could just, in the Q&A, just send me their address, and then I'll read the comment. Joan DePaula, 41 Ash Street. Regarding the selling of marijuana in Bridgewater, listening to all the reasons, sounds like money is the issue. This month is for child abuse victims. Children can be victims outside of their homes. Do not our children matter more than money? We know these will affect them the most. Marijuana is proven to lead to harder drugs. Why do other townspeople try to push this use in our town? Okay. Next, I see a Vincent. Now have the ability to speak. Just unmute yourself and give your full name and address.
Vince DiPaolo, 41 Ash Street, Bridgewater, New Jersey. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for this time, and thank you for putting this together on this situation. My concern is the ability for us to raise our children as God-fearing children. So whether we're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, of the Indian faiths, all of these faiths sincerely try to honor God. And all the morality that I hear about justifying the use of this substance is done in a very high fashion way to try to degrade those who oppose it. And the reason why we would oppose this is because of our own history in life. We've seen what it's done to others. We've seen what it's done to our children. While I would not necessarily make it an outlaw or put someone in prison for the use of it, I certainly wouldn't encourage it. Why couldn't you, if you're concerned about the money, why couldn't you say you can go to an industrial park and make your packages and sell them out if you want that tax revenue without having them to be sold in the town? I'm not saying I am saying that I am approving of that, but that certainly would be one way of saying, well, we're going to get the revenue. But the second thing is, why would you want revenue on something that would actually has hurt people and does hurt people in their developments of their life. Not everyone has the constituency to be able to hand various narcotics. There's plenty of studies out there showing that this goes on to further drugs. And what about the studies? So you're going to let them do this in our public places, in our malls, and then they get into cars. And what are the studies of being able to identify this? And what do we do when the first family is killed because of someone not being able to hand it? This is not the.
Sir, I'm sorry, you're exceeding your 2 minutes. If you could just sum up in the next maybe 10 seconds, I appreciate that.
Will do. This is not the marijuana. I am 60 plus years old. When I was in high school, that marijuana was 5 to 10% as potent as this marijuana. This is 90% more potency. So that's my sum. The Lord Jesus said that if you cause one of these little ones to stumble, it would be better to have a millstone around our neck. I think we have a responsibility to those with less capabilities.
All right, thank you. Appreciate your comments. Mr. Winiger, anybody else?
Yes, one moment. Lefty Grimes, you now have the ability to speak. Just give your full name and address, please.
Good evening, Council. Would I be able to be seen also?
No.
Okay, because I see somebody else being seen. I'm just wondering if I could be, because I thought that was the rule. If you guys use video that we could be seen, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, none of the public comments that I've been aware of since we started doing it this way has any of the public members been seen, so.
Council President, if you can hear me, that is not the rule. That is not the rule. I looked at this issue for another client. It's not the rule.
Okay. Well, it's not the rule, and it has not been our standard since we started these Zoom meetings, well, these virtual meetings.
Okay.
Go ahead. Anyway, why don't you start with your comment, and you have 2 minutes, so go ahead.
I'm actually, I'm Edward Grimes. I'm with sativacross.org, a 501c3 advocating for disabled people and for cannabis patients.
What is your address? I need your address.
84 Hanover Road, East Hanover. And I'm actually shocked that on the day after Easter, on the day after our Savior died, that your town would pass an anti-Christian ordinance, hurting people in wheelchairs, hurting people with cancer, hurting people with multiple sclerosis, putting the last back in line, putting the last way back, putting obstacles in front of people that are already suffering. I can't believe that people are actually Christians that want to make people suffer. I am amazed that I'm hearing somebody, a Christian person, wanting to make people suffer. Now, I understand you want to keep it away from kids. Who wants that? Nobody wants kids to have it unless they're having seizures. I'm shocked that you guys would sell man-made marijuana in your town at the pharmacies. If you look at your town's pharmacies, they sell man-made marijuana. They don't sell God's marijuana. God put cannabis here for us to use, but you sell the man-made stuff, not God's medicine. Ezekiel 47, all sorts of trees for food will grow on both banks of the stream. Their leaves will not wither, nor will their fruitage fail. Each month they will bear new fruit because the water from them flows from the sanctuary. Their fruitage would serve as food and their leaves for healing. Their leaves for healing. Ezekiel 47:12. You can read it for yourself. And if you want to have a Bible battle, we can do that all day, because I fight for sick and dying people. I fight for people that are suffering with cancer. I lost a bunch of friends last year and a bunch of family members last year. Those people could not get cannabis legally, not the amounts that they wanted or needed. My friend had cancer. He could not get his amounts, and he couldn't get it in his town because his town banned cannabis. He had to go out of his way, drive an hour and a half, or have his wife drive him an hour and a half with stage 4 cancer. Why would you make people in wheelchairs suffer? Have you ever spent
I'm sorry, you're over your 2-minute point. If you could just sum up over the next 10 seconds. You should also note, by the way, that the ordinances proposed do not illegalize the medical use marijuana. So, but I'll give you 10 seconds to sum up.
They went with songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning we will remember them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Winiger? That was Mr. Winiger.
What? I was muted. Apologies. Next, I have Jamie Van Syver. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. You have the ability to speak. Just please give your full name and address.
Hello.
Yep, we can hear you.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Van Skyver, Greenwich Avenue, Paulsboro, New Jersey. I'm with sativacross.org. I'm also a medical cannabis patient in the state. And before my time starts, I also do agree with Mr. Grimes that just spoke. You are not in adherence to the Department of Community Affairs and the Division of Local Government Services regulations for remote meetings. Issuant to pursuant PL 2020 C34 enacted on May 15th, 2020, the board shall allow members of the public to make public comment by audio or by audio and video if the remote public meeting is held over both audio and video during the meeting. You are utilizing video. I would like to also be seen while I'm speaking, please.
I'm sorry, ma'am, we don't have that ability for you to do that. So if you want to keep addressing this governing body, you may, but you have
Council
1 minute.
President, I've looked at that
1 minute.
specific issue. I've looked at that specific issue, and there is subsequent information that the DCA has released.
Yeah,
not
that's already been
correct.
addressed.
Not
So
correct at all.
you have another 1 minute and 5 seconds to address this governing body.
Asking you to table 10A and 10B, you're obviously incredibly misinformed. You're stigmatizing and embracing the ignorance and reefer madness about a medicine. We have systems in our bodies. I suggest some people pick up some books, whether it be anatomy and physiology or the Bible, and reread them. We have systems in our body called endocannabinoid systems. They are meant to receive this medication. I don't have opioid system. You're having your community put these toxins and chemicals in their body that create addictions and tolerances, wanting more and more, and you wonder why you're burning through so much Narcan. Open your eyes. How many times is cannabis in the Bible stigmatizing a natural medication that God has put a system in our body to receive? Are you getting money from the pharmaceutical companies? Did you have votes about putting these fentanyl shops up on your corners? No, you vote on this. You vote against nature. You vote against God. Shame on you.
Would you like to sum up over the next 10 seconds or so?
I'm done.
Done? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Winiger, next.
Next, we have Gary. Gary, you're going to have the ability to speak. Just give your full name and address.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Yep. My name's Gary Whaley. I'm at 3 Shaw, Bridgewater, New Jersey. I would like to add my voice to the chorus of individuals that I think you've heard already about 11A and 11B. And remember, this is about 11A and 11B for the sale and distribution of a legalized product in the state of New Jersey. This isn't about public use. I don't think anybody has an issue with the idea of restricting public use like it's done with alcohol and tobacco. I think the issue that you hear people being frustrated with is that the potential positive impact to both ratables as well as income for the district and for the township has a direct effect on our own taxes. And so the idea that what appears to be a knee-jerk reaction could somehow negatively affect my property taxes seems a bit short-sighted on this body's behalf in terms of benefiting the society as a whole that you're supposed to represent, especially one that's overwhelmingly voted to legalize the substance in the state of New Jersey. Again, we're not asking or dictating anything or desiring anything different than tobacco and alcohol. Legalized substances that are allowed to be distributed and retailed and collected on ratables and taxes in the state or in the township. That's all that people are asking. And I think it behooves this body as a representative body to represent those voices and not to a cabal of their own, what appears to be their own desires and needs in some obfuscated basis of benefiting the children of society. That makes no sense.
Oh, thank you very much. Mr. Winiger, anybody else?
Yes, a few more hands raised. We'll try Miss Gladstone again. Ms. Gladstone, try to unmute yourself and give your full name and address. Just have to press unmute. You're unmuted now.
Why don't we come back to her again? You have more to do, right?
She says she's unmuted.
We'll give her a chance to speak, but we'll come back to her again.
Next, I have Philip DeBello. You now have the ability to speak. Just unmute yourself and give your full name and address.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Can you mute your? I think you're on 2 devices, so you're getting a really bad echo.
Yes, sorry. Ooh.
All right, is he there? Mr. DeBello? All right, why don't we come back to Mr. DeBello? Let's keep him, oh, he's there, okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Now we gotta mute this one.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes,
Yes,
we can, go ahead.
Okay, good evening. Sorry about that. Thank you, Councilman Ring, for communicating with our residents about our concerns here on Redwood Road. I'm located at 2 Redwood on the corner of Stangle and Redwood. I'm only an 11-year resident here. I know there's many more residents that have been here for a lot longer, but I've seen the many Band-Aids applied to our road through the years. I really would like to stand up and ask for the paving that's been promised for years. The street certainly needs a full tear down. I myself walk our dog as well as other residents on the street. Some of the dogs even have trouble navigating the potholes and stepping in all the holes and the loose gravel that's on the street. It makes us want to walk elsewhere. There's a huge drop off on our side of the street. From the edge of the street to the gutter, you can see the many layers that are visible. And it makes for no parking right in front of our house, which is difficult for our friends and family when they come over and they have commented on the situation. If possible, I'd like to let my wife talk about her concerns as well.
Yeah, I'm Kim DeBello, 2 Redwood Road. We live on the south side of the street, so we actually have to cross the street every day to pick up our mail. I feel like I'm playing a child's game because it's 2 steps forward, 2 steps to the side to avoid the uneven and patchy road. I have a bad leg from a back injury, and every day when I get the mail, honestly, I'm concerned and scared that if I fall, I'm going to have permanent irreversible damage on my leg. So it's a real safety concern, this street. Secondly, we have a daughter who takes the bus, meets it at the corner of Redwood and Stangle, middle school students. So you know it's dark when the kids are getting on the road. There's all kinds of loose gravel from all the patchwork, and especially if it's wet or a little bit icy, it's dark and it's a real danger. You know, that she's going to fall one day and hurt herself just walking to the bus, because we don't, as one of our neighbors mentioned, we don't have sidewalks on the street. So it's, you know, important that we have a safe road to walk on to get to our mailboxes and to get to the school buses. Thanks very much.
Thank you for letting us speak.
Thank you. Mr. Winiger?
I'm gonna try Miss Gladstone again. Miss Gladstone, try.
How about now?
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent.
Oh,
Okay.
great. Okay, I was an old device, then on my iPhone, and then I had to go to settings to unmute. So thank you for trying again. First, I'd like to just say I'm Jill Gladstone, 25 Linville Lane, and a disclaimer I'd like to say that I hope does not go to my 2 minutes. My statements are made in my capacity as a private citizen and are not in my capacity as a member of the Bridgewater-Raritan Regional Board of Education. My views are stated on my own and do not represent those of the Bridgewater-Raritan Regional School District, BOE, or any of its members. First, I'd like to express I'm in full support of the Bridgewater Township Municipal Democratic Committee statement in opposition to proposed ordinances 10A and 10B. Let's stop pretending. We all know what this is about. The 14th whereas paragraph of proposed ordinance 10A states, quote, the sale, manufacture, and or distribution of cannabis or cannabis items within township jurisdiction would be detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare of the township and its residents. That's what it's about. On what basis are you judging all of those as a blanket statement as detrimental? Where's the empirical data? More important, though, is the fact that 61% of Bridgewater residents disagree. The significant majority of Bridgewater residents want to see cannabis legalized and available for use. Another questionable statement is made even clearer in a press release that Mayor Mensch used on behalf of himself and the council in February. He said that the new New Jersey legislation, quote, caters to the fringes of those individuals who support adult recreational marijuana usage, end quote. Fringes, 61%. You think that the 61% of Bridgewater voters who supported the legalization of marijuana are a fringe. You were elected to represent the Bridgewater residents, not to impose your own personal preferences and beliefs on the community. You're also not representing our community well by rushing this through. You're using fear to justify a knee-jerk reaction against a popular statewide and municipal-wide initiative. Vote. What are the mayor and council fighting for here? We all want to see economic growth by providing new opportunities for business owners, creating more local jobs. This can involve storefronts, office and/or warehouse space. In addition to the direct benefits, the spillover effect would increase sales of our existing businesses and restaurants with an expanded customer base. Why on earth is the mayor and the township racing to place restrictions on the free market, let alone a legal market here in our township? One last point about the idea of a distribution hub.
Ms. Gladstone,
Can I finish my last sentence?
Yeah, I'll give you 10 seconds. Go ahead.
Thank you. Instead of pushing an ordinance through, would it be nice to just find, let's see who could, I just wanted to say, this is the perfect, I'll not lose my words, but right where we are with the highways, perfect place for a distribution hub to bring tax revenues and property ratables to township. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Mr. Vinegar, anybody else?
Yes. Next, I have Chris Velasquez. Mr. Velasquez, you don't have the ability to speak. Just give your full name and address. Thank you.
Yes, Christian Velasquez, 10 5th Street, Dover, New Jersey. I am too with Sativa Cross nonprofit. We fight for cannabis patients and we fight for cannabis access in general for all of New Jersey. I'm against this ban on cannabis businesses in Bridgewater. No one has ever OD'd on cannabis. Studies show that in legal states where people have legal cannabis available, people are drinking less and people are dying less. People are not ODing on hard drugs because they have an option, which is cannabis. Cannabis is not a gateway drug. Cannabis is an exit drug from alcohol and pharmaceuticals. 2/3 of New Jersey voted to legalize the sale of cannabis. Unless you guys don't live in New Jersey, I'm pretty sure your numbers are the same. The people want cannabis, and it's only the 1/3, which I think we found at this counseling this meeting, the 1/3 are stuck in reefer madness. Reefer madness started in the 1930s, where they made cannabis illegal because of racist reasons. The cannabis of today is a lot stronger because the cannabis back in the 50s came from Mexico. Now we have American ingenuity and we are growing cannabis here. So that's why it's a lot better. It's a lot more effective. Cannabis is now preventative medicine. It's going to be used over the counter, just like Advil for headaches. There's lots of salves that you could use for your skin, for burns. Cannabis even helps with COVID-19. If you look at studies from the University of Chicago, it shows that cannabis inhibits COVID-19 infection. CBD potently blocks COVID-19 replication in the lung cells. So that means cannabis stops COVID-19 from replicating in your cells. It also helps you fight COVID-19. So if you're serious about the health of your citizens, you will have cannabis available to everyone. You know,
Right.
everyone talks.
2 minutes. Yeah, your 2 minutes are up. Do you want to sum up?
You know, everyone's concerned about the kids, and I am too. You know, we don't want kids drinking alcohol, but we know parents buy underage kids alcohol and no one bats an eye. So we want to take care of our kids too. We did not legalize this for kids. It's for 21 and over. It's adult use. It's medical. And
Very good.
I think you should table this ban. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for your comment, Mr. Velasquez. Mr. Winiger.
Next, I have Marina Rebman. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but you now have the ability to speak. Just unmute yourself, give your full name and address.
Yes, hi, my name is Marina Rebman, R-E-B-M-A-N-N. 3 Burrell Square, Parlin, New Jersey. I am a medical cannabis patient. I am with Sativa Cross. It's helped me so much. I have anxiety. I also have stage 4 cancer at the moment. And by banning this, you are hurting and bullying cancer patients and anybody else who needs this. When I was first diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, it took me over a month to get my card, for me to get my medicine. If you have high blood pressure, does it take you a month to get your medicine? No, you go to the pharmacy and you get it. I lost 50 pounds in 3 weeks. It was horrible. It was horrendous. It was bullying. I have to go like over 35 minutes to go to my so-called pharmacy dispensary to get my medication. You guys have CVS's, you guys have all sorts of drugstores in your town which help people, which is wonderful. If you are disabled and if you're in a wheelchair, you can't take those taxi cabs because they don't work. They don't want to take somebody in a wheelchair, and if you're in a motorized wheelchair, good luck. And Access Link, the disabled call it Access Link, the people in wheelchairs, because they also don't go everywhere, and they also don't want to, and that also costs a lot of money. It's horrible. I don't know why any town would want to make their town people suffer and be bullied. And that's what's happening. We need our medicine. We need it with grace and ease. We can't go to other places. If you have cancer, it's hard to get to places. If you have a lot of disabled people have issues where they have to go to the bathroom. You can't, it's horrendous because a lot of the places now, because of COVID, are shut down, the bathrooms. And it's horrendous. I can't tell you how frustrating it is. Just please keep an open mind. Don't let your people in Bridgewater suffer. You're making them suffer. You're just holding them back, holding them down. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very sorry about the situation that you're in, and I wish you the best. Mr. Winiger, anybody else?
I have a written comment from Aaron Choynate. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, 24 Cardinal Way in Raritan, New Jersey. I feel like the restriction on smoking on public property should only count in areas where smoking tobacco is also restricted. I also feel that the restriction of sale of marijuana doesn't make sense when people should be able to sell their legal property. That was the last of the new commenters. There's one more hand raised for someone who already spoke. I'll defer to you, Council President.
We have to traditionally not allow anyone to speak a second time. That's just been the tradition of this governing body. So keeping to that, and just to keep fairness, if we allow for one, we have to allow for all. I don't like to, So anybody else? Is that it?
That's all that I have, Council President.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. Is there a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. I just want to spend 1 minute to briefly address the comments of Ms. Franco and also Mr. Redler. Specifically, I guess they were pointed towards me. I did found, and I do run a company called giftapart.com. Giftapart.com is the world's first social e-commerce that provides a very unique way of gifting. We have the only gift registry in the world that allows you to get the gifts in the order that you want. And I filed a couple patents in the process. And we do have an e-commerce marketplace, and in that marketplace, we work with established retailers, and we have at this point, hundreds of stores providing over 50 million products in this marketplace in giftapart.com. And these are all established American retailers, such big names, and they all sell products direct to consumer. Giftapart does not sell any product direct to consumer. They're all sold by our retailer partners. None of the products that are sold on Giftapart, as far as I'm aware, are illegal products. So basically, whatever you're going to find on our platform, you could walk in to your local mall, including Bridgewater Commons, and find these products. So when someone says that there's a cannabis named products, I mean, you can, obviously the public is welcome to search for themselves. They can just go on giftapart.com and type the word cannabis in the products and search for themselves. They'll see that the items that you're talking about are clothing items that may have a marijuana logo on them. There are hemp-based oils. There are some movies that maybe reference cannabis. I know there's a hat. There's even a cannabis wig, and there are some other clothing items. These are things that you can basically buy anywhere, at any store across America. We don't have, as far as I'm aware, and again, if Ms. Franco or Mr. Redler are aware that we have any products that are illegal, I certainly would appreciate them forwarding them to me, to my email. But we don't have any actual marijuana being sold through the platform, and we also don't have any paraphernalia or any other item that would be used for the consumption of marijuana that would not be sold through any store legally in New Jersey, including Bridgewater at this point already. So anyway, I just wanted to make that clear, and since those comments were stated. So anyway, moving on to, let me go back to the agenda here. We are, I believe we're going to deal with ordinances, section 10. So 10A, an ordinance repealing and replacing chapter 53, recreational marijuana of the municipal code of the township of Bridgewater to comply with state law and prohibit the operation of any class of cannabis business within the township's geographical boundaries. Administration.
Sure, Council President, I don't know if you want to read all of them or read A and B or C and D at the same time, or how you want to handle that.
Well, I do recognize that they are important, and how does the council feel? Does anybody here, let me put it this way, does anybody on the council wish to separate the ordinances?
I would like to, if we're going to look to put them all together, just confirm with council that we can do such.
Yeah,
I think you still have to vote on all of them. I'm just saying for purposes of discussion and reading all the titles, we have to do that. I was just suggesting we do that at one time.
Mr. President, for purposes of discussion and in accordance with how we handled this on March 18th, I would like to have one discussion of all four of the ordinances and then the necessary separate votes.
All right, so I'll tell you what. Why don't we can certainly have a discussion on ordinances 10A through 10D, and then I will read them, and we'll take a vote on each one individually. Is that okay, Mr. Corsini?
Yeah, I think you could do that.
Okay, I sense some hesitation in your voice. Do you think I should go through each one? I just want to do the right thing.
I mean, I've seen councils do it where they, where they're of a like type and they read them all together. There are others who think that you have to read them all and then open it up for public comment each time. I mean, I've never seen anything challenged over a council president. I think you could either is justifiable.
I'll just give all my comments, Philippe, at this time, and then you can read the titles separately. This is more complicated than it needed to be.
Yeah.
With regard to all these ordinances, A and B are typically grouped together with regard to the zoning and the prohibition on marijuana businesses, recreational marijuana businesses here in Bridgewater. A few comments. First of all, I want to thank the public for their participation and their interest. I know there's a lot of passion behind this issue. I do want to take some time to correct some facts from some of the public who may just not be as informed on the issue, or for some of the public who are intentionally trying to mislead others on the issue. First of all, this set of ordinances has nothing to do with certainly my personal opinion about whether recreational marijuana should or shouldn't be legal. That's not an issue it's before this council, before the township. The public has voted, there's been a constitutional amendment, and recreational marijuana is now a legal substance in New Jersey. That's not the issue here. The issue before this council and this township is how, if at all, are we able to regulate the rollout of legalized recreational marijuana business in town. So as a starting point, to be clear, none of these impact medical marijuana. Medical access for those patients who have it will continue to have it through that regulatory scheme. Second of all, it does not in any way criminalize possession of marijuana that has already been legalized. We are not able to overturn state law. What we are doing is using those provisions of the legislation that's been passed by the Democratic legislature and signed by Governor Murphy that specifically allow towns to govern and take these actions. This is not an end run that we've somehow come up with as a way of avoiding the legislation. We are using the tools specifically authorized by the enacting legislation passed by the legislature and signed by Governor Murphy. We are following the League of Municipalities guidance to all towns with regard to marijuana businesses. What I think people are misplacing here in some instances is while the public voted on legalizing marijuana, that was a very broad vote. Nobody had in front of them a specific statute or a specific legislation within which they were being asked to decide whether or not they like that specific law. The legislation that's been enacted is now going to put in place the general vote, which is legalized marijuana. Under that legislation, there's going to be regulations put into place. Those regulations will not be made public and finalized until after the time within which the towns, or any town, including ours, has to act on marijuana. If we do nothing, we will completely lose control over our ability to regulate recreational marijuana businesses, and that's provided by the law. If you don't act now, you can't prohibit it for the next 5 years. And I would submit to the council that many residents, even those who support marijuana, would suggest that the most prudent course of action is not to give up our regulatory authority and simply trust that the regulations will cover our needs in our community. Instead, we're taking the action supported by the League of Municipalities that says, until we see the regulations and we understand how they may or may not impact Bridgewater and our ability to regulate marijuana businesses, that we should prohibit it. And then if we deem it appropriate in the future, to reconsider the issue if that's the desire at the time. What we cannot do is allow a marijuana business in town and then decide that we don't want it anymore and kick it out. That you can't do. Regulations, as an example, we all know right now that alcohol is a highly regulated industry. There's all kinds of requirements that they have to have, alcohol businesses. We have no idea what's going to be set up for marijuana businesses. Are they going to be able to operate until 2 o'clock in the morning, only until 10 o'clock at night? Are there prohibitions on how early they can start? Are there prohibitions about zoning? I should mention to the council that the planning board reviewed this ordinances and passed it unanimously, that it concurred with our master plan. And until we have the answers though to these questions, it would be irresponsible for us to completely abdicate our obligation to our residents to make sure that we can properly zone and properly regulate those businesses in our township as provided by state law. There's been issues about liquor licenses and money from that. We have no idea whether or not there's going to be a similar cannabis license that towns will or won't sell and seek revenue from. We have no idea whether or not there's going to be limitations on the number of recreational facilities in a given town, such as with liquor licenses, or whether it's going to be no restrictions? These are all questions that we don't know. The other issue that we have here is that with many legal businesses that residents want in town, take a supermarket, for instance. No resident here would suggest that we are opposed conceptually to a supermarket in Bridgewater, but depending on where you put it, it would have a big impact on the residents. Right now, we have no idea what the traffic impact of a cannabis business would be. We have no idea what the usage or any other aspects of the amount of people are coming. Is it foot traffic? Are people loitering? Are there issues with public safety? We don't know this in New Jersey. All of our experience is based off of what we've heard hearsay-wise from other states. And if the answer is that there are no issues, we can control traffic, there's no nuisance issues, that's great. But we don't know that now, and we're taking it at somebody else's word on what the experiences are. So it is my opinion, a strong opinion, that, you know, if Raritan wants to have a marijuana business, then let Raritan do that first. Let them determine what the traffic impacts are in their neighborhoods. Let them determine what the nuisance issues are in the neighborhood, if any. And then when we go in the future to decide whether or not marijuana businesses should expand into Bridgewater, we have actual data and actual information to determine where and how, if at all, to expand those businesses here into Bridgewater. To do otherwise would be irresponsible and would abdicate our responsibility on behalf of all of our residents, including those who want to use marijuana. The only other comments I'd like to make specifically on topics, one is the issue of revenue. To be clear, we don't know, nobody knows what the revenue is. The numbers cited by the Bridgewater Democratic Committee are either negligently used or intentionally deceptive. They cite language from revenue off of a medical marijuana facility, which is certainly different than recreational marijuana, and also points out that right now there's a limited number of recreational marijuana, medical marijuana sites in the state. So we have no idea whether that number, which they cite at a payment of $650,000, I'm sorry, excuse me, that was a liquor license. According to their numbers, Patterson was receiving $25,000 per month. Well, assuming that that holds, just to be clear, that would give us about, do the math, that would result in approximately a savings into our budget of about $3 on the average tax bill, if that number held. For comparative purposes, I looked at what in California in 2020, they received in total $320 million of retail sales off of recreational marijuana. If we just assumed, for the sake of argument, that that's exactly how much money New Jersey would make, even given the fact that California has about 5.5 times as many residents, if we assume that the same numbers held at a 2% tax at a 2% tax on the retail sales, that would mean for the entire state, it would bring in $6.4 million of taxes across the state. Bridgewater represents approximately 0.5% of the population in Bridgewater. Average math would suggest, best case scenario, at California numbers, we would see $410,000 of revenue, which is about let's call it $6 to $10 off the average taxes. But the reality is that New Jersey doesn't have 40 million residents. We have 7 million residents, which would mean with the same percentages, we'd see about $7,000 a year off of this. So my point being here is that the numbers of revenue, to argue that somehow there's going to be revenue falling from the sky, that we're missing out on this, is a misnomer and is simply misleading the public as to the tax benefits that come from marijuana business. And last but not least, I was certainly dismayed to see that somebody who is in charge of our children's education, such as Jill Gladstone, is intentionally misleading the public with regard to my quotes. My quotes that she miscited was regarding to the fringe elements of law that criminalize police who attempt to enforce underage laws, as well as the fact that the laws as initially enacted actually prohibited cops from notifying parents and otherwise taking steps to make sure that our youth are not using marijuana underage. I'm dismayed to think that someone who's in charge of our children's education would be in favor of that kind of law and would misrepresent my comments to the public. Those are my remarks on A and B. There's been no real discussion on C and D, but just for the sake of filling out those comments, these treat alcohol, treat marijuana just like alcohol and smoking, prohibiting them in public spaces and at public events. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Anyone on the council wish to address this body? Any council member wish to
President, I'm concerned about the state legislation. I don't like the sundown, the 6-month sundown in which we will not be aware of what's going to happen to the legislation. I would be much more in favor of acting now and changing it later if we so choose. But inaction over the next couple of months would lead to a 5-year moratorium, and we would be stuck with whatever has happened. Whatever would have been placed in service, whoever would have built up between now and whenever the effective time, we'd be stuck with them. We couldn't get rid of them. I also notice, obviously, the whole issue of cannabis legislation is the legislator looking for a tax roll. I noticed that there's a rush between New York and New Jersey. New York took a different plan. They said you could have 6 of your plants in your house, whereas New Jersey does not want to do that. At some point, then the Supreme Court will probably have to be involved in this. But in any case, I favor this legislation because in the long run, it protects our kids. Right now, if someone is drunk, abusing alcohol, there's a specific test that our police officers can give them to state when they're intoxicated and take corrective action. There is no test that I'm aware of, nor any that's on the horizon right now that would be able to determine how inebriated a person is using that term related to marijuana. So I support this legislation.
Anybody else have any comments?
Mr. President?
I think Mr. Councilman Ring, spoke first.
Okay, thank you. Just to echo some of the mayor's comments, we heard some talk tonight about potential revenue to the township in comparison to the city of Patterson. The state of New Jersey has only authorized 15 medical marijuana facilities in the state. How does that compare to recreational marijuana? We have no idea because the state hasn't even decided yet how many medical marijuana facilities there will be. And to the mayor's point, how many we'll have in Bridgewater? Is it tied to population, like liquor licenses, or what? There's so many unanswered questions. Quite frankly, the fact that our state legislature and governor allowed this legislature to go through the way it's done, where we have to opt out for 5 year or a 5-year moratorium before the Cannabis Regulatory Commission comes out with the rules. To me, it's like it's almost like taking a personal blank check and signing it over to somebody. You don't know what you're signing on for until after the fact. I think it's irresponsible that our state legislature allowed this legislation to pass in this way. And I think they should have really allowed the towns to see what the rules and regulations are going to be before they have to make a decision. The League of Municipalities says, they're actually advocating, if towns have doubts, that you need to ban it now, and you can always come back. There's a 5-year moratorium on banning it, but there's not a 5-year moratorium if we decide after we see regulations in August to come back and say, hey, let's revisit it. So unfortunately, due to the way the state has put this law together, I have to wholeheartedly support these ordinances.
Councilman Ray. Councilman Kirsch.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to compliment the many Bridgewater residents for making their feelings known on pending ordinances 10A through 10D, both tonight and when we met back on March 18th. To be clear, in November 2020, New Jersey voters approved the use of recreational marijuana subject to a series of pending regulations. The critical operative word is pending, meaning that they are not yet determined and will not be known for months. Voters were not asked where or how recreational marijuana should be sold. Bridgewater's mayor and council have an absolute responsibility for determining how our community is planned and what it looks like. The impact of recreational marijuana dispensaries in New Jersey are simply unknown. The argument of let's just allow this so we don't leave money on the table, ignores the very real incremental expenses experienced in other states with recreational marijuana dispensaries. Until and unless real and documented benefits in other communities are shown that clearly and unequivocally far exceed negative impacts, the wait and see approach, specifically in ordinances 10A and 10B, is the wisest approach. The proposed actions, as stated before, do not change the status of medical marijuana. Ordinances 10C and 10D will protect our collective quality of life by restricting public use of recreational marijuana. These proposals have no impact on the ability of adults 21 and over to legally use recreational marijuana in the privacy of their own homes. I will be supporting all 4 of these ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
Yeah, Philippe, I'd like to comment briefly.
Absolutely.
You know, certainly in the past discussions that we've had as a governing body, nobody on this governing body was against any type of usage of medical marijuana. What I'd like to think is that somewhere, once the state comes across with the guidelines and the all aspects of the act, is if we had a medical distribution in Bridgewater, I would support that. But looking at the way it is structured right now, as Mayor Mensch has mentioned, along with supporting the League of Municipalities comments, you know, we have a responsibility to act when we know specifically what we are acting on and what the, you know, what the rules and the regulations are. Not having that in place right now, I think I would support these ordinances so we can get the information that we need to, you know, make a change and make a decision when we absolutely know what we're dealing with.
Thank you, sir. I guess I'm last. First of all, I want to thank all the members of the public that took their time this evening to come and address this governing body. I personally appreciate the comments, and I do place weight certainly on the feedback I receive, and I care deeply about how Bridgewater residents feel. My first primary concern and is always as to what's best for Bridgewater Township. And so thank you all for your feedback. I mean, I'm basically going to echo what everybody has already said, so I'm going to keep it very short. I do think that the law as passed by the state stinks. You're basically telling municipalities that if you don't act within 6 months, you can't do diddly squat, to use I guess a slang term, but you can't do anything for 5 years to make a change and then to stop the sale of marijuana in your town. When states enact laws like this, they leave towns that care about the well-being of their citizens with very little choice. And like Mayor Mensch, you know, either like he said, either we can, you know, accept to be the guinea pigs and try it out first, or we do the prudent thing and wait it out. And I think that's exactly what's happening here. I do think it's important to note, and I'm going to note it as well. I know others have said it, but I would be very clear that none of these ordinances tonight impact the use of recreational marijuana. What people choose to do in the privacy of their homes is their business, and none of these ordinances would limit the use of marijuana in someone's home. But I do think that the sale of marijuana does come with zoning issues and quality of life issues that need due consideration. They need to be studied. We need to fully understand their impact. Mayor Mensch eloquently put forth the financial numbers and really showed how, in the end, the potential revenue from marijuana is, it's limited. And certainly, look, we welcome all revenue that comes from appropriate places and the right planning and the right way. But our quality of life in Bridgewater Township is not for sale. We're not going to just make a decision based upon what revenue it can bring in. If that was the case, we'd basically approve every overdevelopment project in town with the argument that it's going to bring in more tax revenue. And so we would basically be concreting Bridgewater Township to make money. So we make decisions all the time that are based upon the quality of life for Bridgewater, what's best for our Bridgewater residents. And many times those decisions are not based upon what's going to bring us the most amount of money. And so I do feel strongly that it's both prudent and the right thing to do at this juncture to enact these ordinances. I think we're doing the right thing for the public and for Bridgewater Township, and especially with the light of the current state law. I think it leaves us very little choice, and then time will tell. But I think this is the right thing to do. So I support them, and I will move them. I'll move. Well, let's. I'm going to read them. So I'm going to read one at a time. Does anybody else have anything else to add? Okay, hearing none. 10A, an ordinance repealing and replacing Chapter 53, recreational marijuana of the Municipal Code of the Township of Bridgewater to comply with the state law and prohibit the operation of any class of cannabis business within the township's geographical boundaries. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? I think you're on mute, Howard. I see your lips move, but.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilman Kirsch,
Yes.
Councilman Cardillo,
Yes.
Councilman Norgales,
Yes.
Councilman Ring,
Yes.
President Pedroso,
Yes. 10B, an ordinance amending section 126-324, general use restrictions, so as to specifically prohibit the operation of any class of marijuana establishment in all zones. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Roll call, please.
Councilman Kirsch,
Yes.
Councilman Cardillo,
Yes.
Councilman Norgales,
Yes.
Councilman Ring,
Yes.
President Pedroso,
Yes. 10C, an ordinance creating a new Chapter 54 entitled Cannabis Limitations to prohibit smoking, vaping, aerosolizing, and otherwise consuming cannabis or cannabis items on public property.
I'll move this item.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Very good. Roll call, please.
Councilman Kirsch,
Yes.
Councilman Cardillo,
Yes.
Councilman Norgales,
Yes.
Councilman Ring,
Yes.
President Pedroso.
Yes. 10D, an ordinance amending Chapter 75, tobacco-free events of the Municipal Code of the Township of Bridgewater by adding recreational cannabis use to the prohibited conduct contemplated in the chapter. Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Kirsch,
Yes.
Councilman Cardillo,
Yes.
Councilman Norgales,
Yes.
Councilman Ring,
Yes.
President Pedroso,
Yes. All right, moving on to Section 11, Introduction of Ordinances. We have 11A, a bond ordinance providing an appropriations of $8 million for various road improvements, including but not limited to Field Street, Woodrow Avenue, Poplar Street, and Red Lion Way, St. George's Road, Cambridge Lane, Mallard Drive, Esther Road, Ammer Road, and Redwood Road, including curbing, milling, paving, drainage, sewer, and other miscellaneous improvements, and various road overlays throughout the township in and by the Township of Bridgewater in the County of Somerset, New Jersey, and authorizing the issuance $7.6 million in bonds or notes of the township for financing part of the appropriations. Administration?
Yes, thank you, Council President. We are thrilled to have this ordinance before you today. What you see is the fruit of our labor from last year. As the council and the public who's on may know, last year we hired an independent consultant to come in and to evaluate every road, every township road in Bridgewater, not the county roads, but every road that we are responsible for maintaining, and use objective criteria to rate those roads in terms of the best condition roads to the worst condition roads, to help us target those roads most in need and help create a long-term road plan, which will provide for a immediate and tangible impact and improvement on our infrastructure, which certainly needs increased work. We have put together, as we presented to the council at the end of last year, a plan, which is a 5-year plan, and request that the council allocate $8 million a year towards roads. Those roads would then be prioritized not strictly by rating, but that would be a high priority in terms of how we do the roads. We've then, as you folks all remember, we took the town, we broke it up into 6 segments, so to speak. Each segment will have 1 engineer, and we'll go out to bid in a group for the roads in each of the regions. The benefits of doing that is that it provides for better cost savings with the road contractors. It's bigger projects, it's going to have better pricing. And what we'll also have is a more efficient use of our engineers, because there'll be 1 engineer that will be familiar with those roads with one contractor in those segments. The segments don't necessarily mean that each group is going to get the exact same number of roads or exact same dollars. While we try to make sure everybody gets something, we're not committing that each one is going to be exactly evenly distributed. It really depends on the roads and which roads in that year are up. So what you have before you is that plan for this year. We are hoping, I know there was a lot of residents on, a few residents on today for Redwood. Redwood's on, it's coming. The timing of this, we're doing this year earlier than we have in almost every other year for the past several years. By getting this ordinance introduced and hopefully passed at the next meeting means that we can go out much quicker for bids. We can jump upon with very good pricing at the moment. And the goal is that this work is being done over the summer and into the early fall. That's in past years, because we've been later in doing the road work, oftentimes road work that's part of a 2020 or 2019 plan isn't being done until the following year. Our goal is to make sure that the 2021 roads are done in 2021. By also going out earlier this year, as the council knows, we do our best estimation on the cost of roads. Last year, as the council remember, a lot of roads came in under what we expected. That means that we have savings that we can then turn around, and if there's enough savings, we can consider going out and doing additional set of roads later this year, or we can jumpstart our roads for next year by taking some of those savings and using it towards engineering costs on next year's projects. So the bottom line here is that the earlier we get this done, the more savings that we're likely to see given favorable pricing, and the quicker we can get the road work, get the money on the street, so to speak. For residents who are interested in what roads are being done, there's a few roads listed here, but if you go onto our website, ourbwroads.com, that's where we have all the information regarding every road being done. So you can get updates on the status of paving, regardless of which road you're interested in. You can see the map of the condition of the roads to determine where those are. And as we know, as roads get put onto the list, so to speak, for next year, and we know what roads are going to start being prioritized for 2022, we'll put that up there as well. So I'm glad today that the residents who spoke, that were able to meet their needs with Redwood. I recognize, though, that there are a lot of residents who are still waiting for their roads to get done. And I can tell you that if We are aware of the condition of these roads. We are aggressively pursuing them. And this is the first step of the 5-year plan that we promised, and that I know the council has been a great partner with us to develop and to implement. So with that, unless the council has any questions, we'll certainly take those.
Anyone have any questions or comments or motion?
I have no questions at this time. President, I just have one comment. I think this is something that's been long needed, and my hat's off to the mayor for bringing this initiative to the council. The $8 million is a big expenditure. It's certainly significantly more than we've spent in past years, but it's needed. As you look at that list of roads to be done, it is significant, and I know that next year we'll have another list, which hopefully will be as big and as much money put aside. So I'm totally supportive of this.
Philippe, I'll make a motion. We move 11A.
I'll second it.
Mr. President, can we have some additional conversation before the vote?
Sure, Councilman Gersh, you're welcome to say a few things.
Thank you. So Mayor mentioned it, did a good job of outlining the philosophy as well as the actions being taken here. I know Councilman Norgalis also made reference that this is a significant expenditure. It is, as I see it, a down payment toward a new commitment to really getting ahead of the problem that we have in this community, which is substandard roads. This fulfills a campaign promise made in 2019. It is step one of what we believe is a multi-year plan. And as was pointed out, this is an outstanding time to be passing this ordinance so that we can get out into the market, we can take advantage of very strong pricing. And if the precedent that we've had over the last year and few months that I've been on the council, if that precedent holds, we are likely to get a considerable bang for our buck here with a real impact on our community and its roads. The other piece of this puzzle, this is an area where our Office of Constituent Relations really deserves a shout out, is that website that was noted, ourbwroads.com, also accessible through our website. This process is being done in a clear a very clear and transparent manner. Each road in the community was surveyed for its condition, and the results are evident through that map. So if anyone has a question of what is the condition of their road in comparison to others, potentially giving some insight into how soon they may see some improvement, that information is now readily available 24/7 through our website and through that specialized page. So I will wholeheartedly support this, and I'm excited that we are taking the first step to get ahead of what has been a considerable problem in this community.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
Council President, just one comment. Mr. Winger has reminded me that the website for this year's 2021 roads will not be updated until after the meeting, given the fact that the ordinance has not yet been passed. We thought it would be presumptuous to put the roads up prior to council action. So for the residents, please give us a day after tonight's meeting, and then all these roads on there will be on the website. That's all I got.
All right. Any other council member wish to address this? All right. There was a motion made, I think, by Councilman Cardilla and second by Councilman Norgalis. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Well, I too support this ordinance. Thank you, Mayor. It's good to have a mayor who finally produced a road plan, much needed, and I also think that this is a great time to do this. Interest rates have been at historic lows. Creeping up a little bit past couple months, but still, when you look at the history of bond rates, I mean, it's super duper low. And it's a great time to take advantage of this and put it to good use. So roads are much needed. We need to get them fixed. So I support it. Roll call, please.
Councilman Kirsch,
Yes.
Councilman Cardillo,
Yes.
Councilman Nogales,
Yes.
Councilman Ring,
Yes.
President Pedroso.
Yes. Set notice, please.
So the public hearing will be on the 19th day of April, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. Copies will be made and available to the public, and the supplemental debt statement will be forwarded to the Division of Local Government Services.
Thank you. 11B, an ordinance amending Chapter 99 entitled Fire Prevention to update fire prevention requirements, structures, uses, inspections, permits, and registration fees and penalties in accordance with the New Jersey Uniform Fire Code. Mayor?
Thanks. I'll let Mr. Pappas comment if he has any additionals, but this is essentially to update our outdated system to make sure that we're covering costs that, folks who are using these services are covering the cost of us providing them, so that taxpayers are not shouldering the burden on the backs of the folks who are using the services.
Okay. Mr. Pappas, anything on that?
The mayor is correct.
Okay, very good. Any questions, comments, or motion?
Mr. President, I have one comment. I think Mr. Genova and Mr. Pappas need to be congratulated for the ones who have been looking into our fee structure. Anybody who's heard me prattle over the years, I like cost to be recovered by the specific function that caused them. And in this particular case, this fine tuning of the fire fees is overdue and appropriate. Thank you.
Mr.
Very well.
President, may I just make one additional comment to Mr. Norgales's point? As he said, I want to give Mr. Genova all the credit here. He has driven these conversations. We will be coming to the council for some other proposed ordinance changes. The next one, I think, is going to be regarding street opening permits. The numbers there are quite antiquated. Thank you.
Okay.
With that, I'll move to introduce 11B.
I'll second it.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilman Kirsch,
Yes.
Councilman Cardillo,
Yes.
Councilman Nogales,
Yes.
Councilman Ring,
Yes.
President Pedroso.
Yes. Notice, please.
The public hearing and final action on this ordinance will take place the 19th day of April, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. Copies of this ordinance as introduced will be available to the public.
Thank you. 11C, an ordinance amending Chapter 126-321.4 entitled Low and Moderate Income Housing to provide for a comprehensive affordability assistance program administered by way of an affordability assistance and procedures manual. Mr. Pappas?
Thank you, Mr. President. The council, as you know, a number of years ago, the township entered into a settlement agreement for affordable housing obligations. Each municipality in New Jersey has done so, and this is a component of the settlement requiring periodic updates of some documents that were part of that settlement agreement.
Okay. Doesn't change the underlying settlement, I presume, correct?
Correct, that's correct.
Okay. All right, very good. Any questions?
I have
Is there a
no
motion?
question. I'll make a motion to move it.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilman Kirsch,
Yes.
Councilman Cardillo,
Yes.
Councilman Nogales,
Yes.
Councilman Ring,
Yes.
President Pedroso.
Yes.
And the public hearing will be on the 19th day of April, 2021, 7:30 p.m. This ordinance will be available to the public.
Thank you. All right, moving on to resolutions. We have a 12A and a 12A1. Are they the one or the other? Are they together? What's up with the A1, A-1?
If I may,
The one that includes the $400,000, we needed to pass the bonding ordinance. So with the bonding ordinance now moving forward, we can go with 12A, which is the $462,000.
All right. So 12A1 is not for consideration. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yes.
12A.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
So 12A, resolution providing for emergency temporary appropriations for the current fund, $462,000. Mr. Pappas?
the proposal here is frankly to provide the percent deposit that's required for the bond ordinance, for the road bond ordinance that was introduced. Obviously, 400,000 of it is for that purpose, and then the other amount, 62,000, for some minor additions that are needed. The largest is for the balance of the fee for the Middlebrook Health Commission for the balance of the calendar year. When the council approved the temporary first quarter, there was a portion of the annual fee that provides for the balance for the rest of the calendar year.
Thank you.
I'll move 12A.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilman Kirsch,
Yes.
Councilman Cardillo,
Yes.
Councilman Nogales,
Yes.
Councilman Ring,
Yes.
President Pedroso.
Yes. 12B, resolution providing for emergency temporary appropriations for the sewer utility fund of about $2.7 million. Mr. Pappas?
The council early in the year approved a couple of temporary budgets, one for the current fund, another for the sewer utility. This is the second temporary budget appropriation that is being requested. The original lasted about 2 months. This will get us through at least through the end of May, if not into June. And hopefully by then we'll have a budget that the council will consider for the year.
And just a quick comment, just so the council understands. Right now, as everyone knows, there's money coming from the Federal CARES Act, and there's some other question marks that are still outstanding. A lot of towns like us are waiting to understand the nuances of those numbers and what and how and if and when we can use that money, so we understand how we're able to allocate that in our budget or not. So that's where we are with the budget right now. As soon as we get that guidance from DCA and some more clarity from the state, then we'll be in a position to work with our council budget subcommittee to finalize a budget for presentation to the council.
Thank you for the update. All right, council questions or motions?
Well, if there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilman Kirsch,
Yes.
Councilman Cardillo,
Yes.
Councilman Nogales,
Yes.
Councilman Ring,
Yes.
President Pedroso.
Yes. 12C, resolution to enter into an agreement between the Township of Bridgewater and the County of Somerset for a certified recycling professional, CRP, to commence retroactively to January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2021. Mr. Pappas, I also want to give you the heads up that there is a council member here, I believe, who's going to have a question about the amount being higher than last year. I think last year was 100 and something, and now this is a not to exceed 500. Maybe you can address that.
Last year, when this was proposed, the council approved a resolution provided, I think, not to exceed $500. At the time, we were not sure what amount it would actually be. I did anticipate the question here tonight, and so what we spent in 2020 is $125.46 for that service. And again, the annual recycling report has to be reviewed and signed by someone with the certification. My predecessor had that certification. I do not. No one on our staff has it, and we had attempted to find another individual with the certification. County government does, and they are charging us an hourly fee for the review of the report that Mrs. Madrid prepares. Very, very detailed report, but someone decided.
Since the amount was 125, can we lower the not to exceed amount to a lower amount?
So certainly you could. I cannot anticipate that it would be $500 worth of their time. I cannot anticipate that.
Right.
Mr. President, can we have some discussion on this before taking action and potentially determining an alternate amount for this resolution?
No, Councilman Kirsch. I'm just joking. Yeah, we have discussion on everything that we bring forward. So this.
No, but this one I think deserves particular attention for a handful of reasons, if I may. So the first is, and I know this is minor, but we do need to correct the title so that it refers to a certified recycling professional, so that we have that accurate. Back in 2020, when we saw a resolution like this, it was approved by a vote of 3-2, and I was one of the 2 that voted no. And I want to explain why I voted no then and why I have concerns with this today. The reason that I voted no, well, first, before I even go there, I do have a question for Mr. Pappas. So in 2020, Mrs. Madrid basically did this work, and then the certified recycling professional reviewed it and signed off. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Correct.
Were there any material changes needed to the report that Mrs. Madrid provided?
Do not think so, no, sir.
Okay, so here's what my concern was in 2020, and this is what my concern is today. Somerset County has a budget of $253 million. Somerset County has $203 million of that raised by taxation, including a considerable portion from Bridgewater Township. We host a sizable number of county facilities, including parks, including the mental health center, among others. I feel that being charged anything for this, candidly, is nickeling and diming and is not even worthy of being requested. With that said, I don't want to necessarily stand in the way of progress, but I also want to make it very clear that if 3 hours of time spent was spent in 2021, excuse me, if 3 hours of time was spent in 2020, and there would be no reasonable expectation that more than 3 hours of time is going to be spent in 2021, we should not be giving a blank check to Somerset County for $500. We should consider a blank check that is dramatically smaller than that, is in line with the likely 3 hours that is going to be spent on this. But frankly, assuming that I vote for this, it will be with great hesitation, because I believe this is an expense that the county of Somerset should be absorbing, particularly given the considerable cooperation that we have between Bridgewater Township and Somerset County. And in the absence of a cooperative approach, perhaps we need to start thinking about what services we provide that the county benefits from, and potentially we should consider sending them a bill.
Mr. President, I don't think it's appropriate to get involved in a spitting contest with Somerset County over a couple $100. We've already spent more time on this. With that in view, I will move 12C based on the way it's written.
I mean, the way I understand it, and maybe Mr. Pappas can correct me, this is a service that we would have to incur and pay someone else to do it, but we're just electing to have the county do it. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. There are a limited number of
and there is a specific named person in Somerset County who's doing this as part of their job.
Correct.
You know,
yeah, there are
under this
joint
joint service, I'll call it.
Council President, I have a couple questions I'd like to get some clarification on when I can.
Go ahead.
First of all, Mr. Pappas, the report that Ms. Madrid prepared last year, I'm assuming that is based upon our recycling volume. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So, and to determine our recycling volume, we got that data from the county who collected our recycling.
I believe so. And I also think it's also from commercial vendors that report their recycling to Bridgewater.
Okay. And then the last, and I apologize, this may have just been a clerical error that I didn't realize until now, but in my packet, 12C, while we're talking about this, the agreement that is attached is not an agreement for a certified recycling professional, but rather it's the agreement for recycling. It outlines the requirements for residents to put their recycling out to the curb and the manner in which the county will be collecting the recycling. So again, it might be a clerical error on my part, but the agreement I have does not match the resolution.
Mr. Pappas, I would suggest, or Mr. Council President, that given that there's a few questions here from Councilman Ring and Kirsch, we have, I believe, until the end of the month. Is that correct, Mr. Pappas, to act on this?
Correct.
So why don't we table, I would suggest the council table 12C. Let's make sure that we have Councilman Kirsch's concerns addressed if we can. Councilman Ring, I know, had a few comments. I think Councilman Ring was probably the other no vote on this one last year, if I recall correctly. Let's make sure we have the correct information. And if there's a need to have a meeting with the county or somebody to address the issues, we can do that. But there's no reason why either councilman we should have it voted on tonight if there was an issue with it.
Actually, one other historic note on this, there was a second problem that occurred with the main agreement. That's the one that Councilman Ring was concerned about. The one related to this certified recycling professional, the other council member who voted no last year was Council President Pedroso. But there are some inconsistencies with these documents. There seems, I believe, to be an inappropriate policy, and I will make a motion to table 12C.
I'll second that motion.
All right, there's a motion and a second to table, so we have to take a roll call on that motion to table. Ms. Doyle?
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Cardillo?
Yes.
Councilman Nogales?
No.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Pedroso?
Since the administration has said that there's no urgency in this matter and we have time and there are legitimate questions raised by this council and this governing body, I will agree to table. I vote yes. All right, so moving on to 12D. Adopting an affordability assistance and procedures manual and affordable housing administrative agent policies and procedures manual and a housing rehabilitation manual. Mr. Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, as part of the settlement, there are several manuals that are required. One is referencing the housing rehabilitation program. The other ones are listed there on the title of the resolution. These are updates from the settlement from a few years ago. Nothing is substantively different. Nothing new added, just updates from the settlement from a few years ago.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll move 12D.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Oh, great. Roll call, please.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Cardillo?
Yes.
Councilman Nogales?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Pedroso?
Yes. 12E, award of contract to KM Construction Corp., 14 Cordier Street in Irvington, New Jersey for the Old Farm Road Service Area Expansion 2019, Sanitary Sewer Extension and Roadway Restoration Project in the sum of $1.083 million funded through the 2017 Sewer Capital Bond Ordinance. Mr. Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, as was referenced by Mayor Mensch earlier and others, the pricing that we have been able to receive for various road projects. This is another example. We had 5 companies bid on this. The low bid, which is being presented to you for consideration tonight, is for a total of $1.083 million. A higher of the 5 bids was just over $2 million. And we were fortunate to have such interest from very qualified road construction companies. I know this project, when I first came aboard, Councilman Nogales is one of the individuals that always asking me, what are you doing with Old Farm Road? So we're glad to see this move forward.
And I'd like to move it.
Okay, any questions by the council? Not, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Great, roll call, please.
Councilman Kirsch,
Yes.
Councilman Cardilla,
Yes.
Councilman Nogales,
Yes.
Councilman Ring,
Yes.
President Pedroso.
Yes. Okay, moving on to our last resolution, 12F. Memorializing fireworks display at Somerset Patriot Stadium on Tuesday, May 4th, with a rain date of May 8th, Friday, May 28th, a rain date of May 29th, Saturday, June 5th, a rain date of June 19th, Friday, June 18th, with a rain date of July 9th. Tuesday, July 6th, Saturday, July 10th, Friday, July 23rd, Saturday, August 7th, Friday, August 13th, Saturday, August 28th, and Friday, September 10th, with various rain dates therein. Mr. Pappas.
The council last year, the mayor and council last year had wanted to see one resolution with the entirety of the list of proposed dates for fireworks at the Patriot Stadium. Here it is.
Great. I think Mr. Califer had requested that at a council meeting. Any comments or questions?
Mr. President, I was the one on the council that, simply said, let's see the whole picture. I'm thrilled that we have the whole picture. On a personal level, I'm particularly thrilled that we will have baseball in Bridgewater Township beginning in just about 4 weeks. And unless there's further discussion, I'd like to move this resolution.
Second it.
Yeah, and congratulations to the Patriots for signing with the Yankees. Right. All right, roll call, please.
Councilman Kirsch,
Yes.
Councilman Cardilla,
Yes.
Councilman Nogales,
Yes.
Councilman Ring,
Yes.
President Pedroso.
Yes. Mr. Corsini, do we have an item 13 tonight?
We do not, Council President.
Okay. Very well, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, item 14.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Great, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, this governing body is adjourned. Again, thank you to the many public members that participated this evening. Have a good night, everyone.
Aye.